Good morning. Got a little sunshine thing going on here. Good morning, Melissa. Glad you could join me this morning. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Good morning, Lisa. Good morning, good morning. I'm glad everybody is here today. We're going to have some fun this morning. For those that may not know me, who's either watching live or the recording, I am Joyce Glass. I'm a writer and speaker and writing coach. My ministry name is The Daily GPS. I blog at thedailygps.com, and GPS stands for Grow, Pray, Serve, because daily we need to be growing in the Word, praying and serving God, and that is where that came from. And of course, it's a play on the our technology GPS. God guides us. He gives us directions. He navigates us. Thank you. Who is Words by Andy Lee? Are you Andy Lee? I thank you for being here. Yes, you're Andy Lee. Great. Thank you, Andy. I appreciate you being here. And yes, I love that name because it is a play on words. I love things that are kind of a play on words. You know, it associates our technology, but it also associates with our relationship with God. And so that makes it really fun. Today, I'm glad you're here for Faith-Filled Friday. That is my Periscope that we've been doing here on Fridays at 9 a.m. And I am so glad that all of you have joined me today. And we're going to talk about the dirty S word today, which comes from the devotional I've written. Some of you may know, some of you may not know. I've written this devotional. It's called I Need God, Daily Downloads for Your Heart. And I'm just taking excerpts from the book to talk about. I'm not going through the book, you know, word by word or day by day, like you would in a Bible study. But each Friday, I'm just taking some information from each chapter. I'm going week by week. So this week we're on week 3. And I'm sharing with you some information from that chapter and how it applies to our lives now. Of course, I'd love for you to get the book. You can check it out at iNeedGodBook.com to learn more about it. And there also is a buy button there that takes you to Amazon. It is available on Amazon in print or on the Kindle. So hope you can check that out. But today, the dirty S word. Does anybody have any idea what the dirty S word is? When I said it's probably not the one you think. I've written a blog post about this. I do a talk about this. Some people know, some people will catch on. It's not the cuss word. In church, in the church realm or the faith realm, it could be like a cuss word because we don't like it necessarily, but it's one of those that's good for us. Does anybody have any guess on what the S word, the dirty S word is in the church world? No takers? Or are you typing? I'll give you a second to type. Good morning, the Mom Ledger. What is your name? Thank you for joining us. I'm Joyce Glass, and I am going to be talking about it's Faith-Filled Friday, and we're talking about the dirty S word. And I just asked what people thought the dirty S word is. Nobody's come up with anything yet. So, the dirty S word is surrender. We have a hard time swallowing and understanding surrender because it can sound very confining. It can sound very, something hard to do. And there are times it can be hard to do. But it's one that we have thrown around in church. Oh, just surrender it to God. Just surrender it to God. And we say that. But do we really know what that means? That is the part that is hard for us, knowing what that really means. And so when I was researching this chapter, I came across I looked up the definition of surrender, and I thought, I really like this. And so the definition that I found of surrender, this is one of them: the delivery of a prisoner fugitive from justice or other principal in a suit or legal custody. Immediately, this made me think of when Jesus goes to the temple and he starts his ministry and he reads from Isaiah, I have come to set the oppressed free. And you can find that in Luke 4:18 and 19. Does that sound like a confining thing, to come to set the oppressed free? Yes, Melissa, I understand. It is hard to surrender everything, and my husband is definitely more type A than me. I have a little bit of it in me on some things, but I'm also that middle child. So I kind of have a funny balance, because the birth order thing, if y'all are familiar with the birth order thing from Dr. Kevin Lehman, I have a brother 3 years older than me. So I don't have any direct sibling rivalry. So I have some firstborn tendencies, which can make me a little type A on some things. Now, I get really type A when there's a party going on at my house, and I become Helga, is what my husband calls me. So, then it's like, get this done, hurry up, help, clean this up now. You know, so it depends on the situation and what it is. And so I understand that can be difficult, and depending upon what it is, it can be difficult. If there's just a big unknown, to surrender it to God and lay it down, you're like, what is he going to ask me to do, or how is he going to handle this? Is this really going to get better? So, but daily, we surrender to something. We surrender to sleep, or we surrender to exercise. We surrender to having that piece of chocolate cake, or, if it's salty things for you, a bag of chips, instead of eating a salad or fruits and vegetables to help us. We surrender to worry, or we surrender to peace. We surrender to whether we're going to listen to God and do what he says, or we go and do our own thing. So each day we have a choice, and we surrender one way or the other. Excuse me, my nose is itching. Thank you. That's better now. But think about it for a minute. What is the hardest thing you ever had to surrender to? Feel free to comment if you want to share, but for me, the hardest thing to learn surrender in was my marriage. God really helped me understand surrender more by surrendering things to him in my marriage, because as you know, you can't control things. You can't control your spouse. You can't control your husband. You can't control a lot of things. You can try to manipulate them, but you can't control them. And so when you learn to surrender and let it go, that's when it gets beautiful. And so my definition of surrender for us is when our desires intersect with God's love and power, we have the ability to do more than we can dream or imagine. And that can be very hard. That can be very hard, because that means letting go of what we thought we should do with our life, or how we thought life is going to go. I mean, I thought life for me was going to be a completely different direction than it has been. But it's actually been a good thing. It's been a good thing that the direction God took me. But I had to finally surrender to it. And it wasn't until I surrendered that God started speaking to me about it. So, but surrender, a lot of people feel like it's, oh, you're a puppet on a string, you're a robot. When actually, it's the opposite. Surrender, people think it as confining, and we can only stay in this little box, and we can only do this thing right here. When actually, surrender is opening up our hands and saying, God, I lay down my desires, and I give you my heart, and you do what you want in my life. And here's the cool thing. He will change your desires. My desires have changed since I was in my 20s and trying to figure out what to do in life. My desires completely changed. But now they're still evolving and changing, but I'm going the direction that he wants me to go. And when you do that, there's this color and this richness to life. It's like watching TV on a black and white old TV, a little TV, or living life HD on a big old flat screen TV. That's the difference between living with God and surrendering versus going life your own way. Not that it's always going to be roses and sunshine. There's going to be hard things because that's just life, and we're here and we live in a fallen world. But what is great is God meshes our gifts and our abilities and our desires with what He wants us to do. And then it's a lot more fun. I never thought about being a writer when I was in my 20s. Never, ever crossed my mind. I loved reading. I did pretty good in English in high school and college. But, you know, I never had a professor come up to me, "Oh, Joyce, you should really be a writer." There's never been that. So when God called me to write He started calling me when my son was a baby and I started writing. But then I took a little detour for a while, did some other things, and about 6 years ago, I had a come to Jesus meeting and He brought it up again. And I'm like, okay, this feels right. This is what I want to do, because I'm not just writing, I'm also teaching and speaking. And those are things that I love to do. I love to teach, I love to speak, I love to help others. That's a part of why I'm a writing coach, is it because I love to help others learn something or get better at something that I have been working on and getting better myself. And I'm continuing to get better. As you're a professional, you should always be working and getting better. When you surrender to something, when is the conference you were doing? Conference. Oh, the one with Delinda? The one here? Or which one are you talking about, Melissa? The one, I'm doing a conference here in my town October 1st. That's going to be for women, called Fun Fearless Female. That is October 1st, so if you, of course, are more than welcome to come down. We have plenty of hotels to stay in. So, I actually may be staying in a hotel then too, because I may be moved to Asheville by then. That's my hope and prayer. I am been in Asheville for quite some time by October 1st. So, but yes, I am having an event for those that are in the Albany area that watch this and listen to this. I live in Albany, Georgia. October 1st, I'm having a live event with Delinda Lang called Fun Fearless Female. It's called Live with Purpose. And I am so excited about that. And a part of, that's what surrender is finding your purpose in life. When you surrender your life to God, you find purpose, you find hope, you find strength and confidence. I mean, there's this confidence that I haven't had before, that when I finally surrendered to God, and it comes from God. It comes from the power of knowing that, you know what? I don't have to have it all figured out. God will show me step by step by step how to figure it all out. We don't have to figure out all the steps 20 steps down the road. That's for God to do. He knows them. And when we're ready for that next step, when we're listening, He will show us that next step. That's the exciting thing. And He's been showing me steps since last November. I went to a speaker's conference, and God has been speaking and working things in my life that's just been amazing. And so that's what surrender is about, is letting our desires intersect with His power and His love to give us the ability to do more than we can dream or imagine. Think about that. When you have the power of God to do what you want to do, and He changes the desires of our heart. It's not a complete 180. I mean, I've always loved to write and to speak. I just never thought about doing it professionally until God spoke that upon my heart. And I really could see it then. But I saw it in His power. Sorry about that. I got a phone call. I guess I should turn my do not disturb on. I didn't realize phone calls could still come through. Hopefully you are still here. But surrender also means that you are completely trusting God, and He will show you the path to implement your plan. But you still have to do the work. You have to take the first step. Just like Moses, when he went to part the Red Sea, he had to hold up his staff and trust that God was going to part the Red Sea. When the Israelites were crossing the Jordan to go to the Promised Land, and the priest had the Ark of the Covenant on them, they had to step into the water before the waters parted for them to cross then, to go into the Promised Land. They had to take a step. A lot of times we have to take a step. We have to step out in faith and go, I'm not really sure where this is going to take me, because there's a lot of things I don't know right now. I know I want to write and speak and do conferences and be a writing coach, but I don't know all the steps and where that is going to take me 5, 10, 20 years down the road. You know, I like to imagine where that would be, and I hope it's a great place. But it could be hard. I mean, depending upon what goes on in our country, people like me could end up being persecuted because I'm a Christian. If things go sour in our country and we have any kind of ISIS issues in America, which is hard to think about, but it's always possible. We're not immune. We are not immune. I mean, as from everybody should know from 9/11, we are not immune from terrorism. But, and not to sit here and scare you, but to keep that in mind. Just because God calls you to do something doesn't mean it's all going to be beautiful and roses. Paul was called to speak to the Gentiles, but how many times was he thrown in prison? How many times was he beaten? Numerous times. So both ways. I mean, he was beaten, he was put in prison, all of these things. And you've got to know that when you surrender to God, what that means is you have a peace and you have a power and you have a confidence in what God has called you to do. And it may not be easy, but it's going to be so worth it, because doing things for the kingdom of God is more powerful than doing things for yourself. I just, it's awesome to see how God has moved in my life and continues to move. And I'll tell you the awesome things about this, about me moving to Asheville. This is one of those things that, you know, God's come up completely on his own on this one. But I'm thrilled, and I have no idea where all of this is going to lead with us moving to Asheville, but I feel like it's going to be really good and provide a lot of opportunities for me personally and professionally. I've wanted to live in Asheville for about 10 years. I drove my husband nuts for a while talking about it, you know, every so often, and he was like, stop talking about that, we're not moving to Asheville, blah, 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 you know, and he's like, I don't have a job there, and and I'm like, okay, and so I just dropped it a couple years ago, just stopped talking about it, but in the back of my mind, it's always been a hope and a dream to move to Asheville, and I thought, well, maybe when we retire, we can move there. That would be a good time. We could do that. Well, my husband's job started getting crazy in January, and he was able to find a new job in Asheville. And that was just a God thing, that he had a connection there. And now we are moving to the one place I have wanted to live for 10 years and dreamed about, where I've always wanted, you know, when we think about where we're going to go on vacation, I'm like, well, somewhere around Asheville would be nice, somewhere in the mountains. And so that is now a cool, thank you, Melissa, isn't that cool? I'll tell you another funny thing. I got a new car back in October, and I thought it was hysterical. I live in Southwest Georgia. It never snows here, okay, never, like once in a decade maybe, and we get like that much and it's ice, you know. And I got this new car. It was a year old, and it has a button on it for snow, like to help with traction when you're in snow, and it's got the heated mirrors. I'm like, well, I won't be using that too much here in Southwest Georgia. I might need the heated seats, but I don't need the heated mirrors really. And it was just part of the package that came with the car. And now I'm moving where there is going to be snow on occasion, and I'll probably use those heated seats a lot during the winter. And so, you know, it's a funny little thing like that God even knew back in October when I got a new car that those silly little features were something that I might need eventually, you know. So I just thought that was amusing that God was thinking of me even then. And he, like I said, he's just been working all these things out since last November, and it would take forever to go through, and I need to write them down. But it's been amazing to see how God works. And I'll tell you what happened when I left that trip. That conference in November was in Atlanta, and so I had a 4-hour drive home. And it gave me a lot of time to think. And I remember thinking, okay, God, I had not been focusing on my speaking and writing. I had taken a full-time job, and I was like, and I didn't really like the job. I was just taking it to make some money. But I felt like that's what I had to do at the time. And I'm like, okay, God, I surrender this to you. I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know how I'm going to do this and work too. But I surrender this to you, and you just show me what you need to do. And I hired a business coach, and I've got some help. And now I'm moving on that path. And God has just been moving one thing after the other in my life. And that's what happens when you completely surrender and give your plans over to Him. So I hope you have enjoyed Faith-Filled Friday. For those of you who maybe came in later, I'm Joyce Glass with the Daily GPS. GPS stands for Grow, Pray, Serve. And also, of course, GPS is a play on our technology. That GPS, God is our GPS. He helps guide and navigate us through life, through His Word, through the Holy Spirit, sometimes through others. He helps us, but we daily need to be growing and praying and serving God. And that is my blog. If you go to the www.thedailygps.com, you can download a prayer planner when you subscribe to the blog. And that prayer planner will help you keep your prayer request organized. And there's one day for a page for each day to put your prayer request, and then a page for answers for each day. And you can take it to the printers and have them printed out pretty for you and put it in a 3-ring binder. There's a journal part in the back. You can journal your prayers. And then also there's an explanation when you download it how to use the prayer planner. And or you can just print it out at home, and you don't have to do the pretty colors if you don't want. So I hope that you have had a great day so far, and that you have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend, and keep safe. And thank you for joining me on Faith-Filled Friday, and I pray that you will go and spend some time with your Heavenly Father this weekend and just lay down anything that you need to lay down in your life so that you can really just have that full, rich life. And again, just thank you for being here, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.